hustle the other way. That's why they follow me up. They think I know the way. So I took control of things. Going the solo way. And if you cut in my trend, I make you my protege. Crossing that soldier race. Niggas don't know them days. Take you in back of the buildings. Make you expose your rage. Take you across the tracks. Make you explode the face. Now you official now. But you got a soul to say. I just been cooking that note. I'm about to drop in the field. Think if I call it the great, the people gon' call it the truth. I ain't really trip on the credit. I just paid all of my dues. I just respected the game. Got my name all in the news. Tripping on all of my moves. Quote me on this, got a lot more to prove. Remember I came in this bitch, fresh out the county. Don't do this or nothing. No. What I got, you. But I don't do this shit for nothing. No, not at all. You. But my money real, how you live? That you do. So I don't do this shit for nothing. Not at all. Hey, Sean.
Hey, lady.
You know.
Ready to get started?
Yeah, we should get started. A little bit.
I don't know, that vibe is kind of
You know, but it's a whole thing.
R.I.P. Nipsey. Just to put it in.
Good evening, Sean.
What up? Good evening. We back. Focus Friday, everyone. Evening edition. Maybe our permanent edition.
It's staying.
I mean,
Let's
it
just.
is a good time.
It's a really good time. And we take this half hour, get some things said and done, share some information. I'm liking the 7 p.m. vibe. I think it's the right one.
I mean, I like it too. Seriously. So welcome everybody.
Hey.
It's Focus Friday. We here. We back. Busy work week for everybody.
Especially
us. And we're here to have a discussion. We're gonna talk to y'all, give y'all some updates, talk about some topics that we think the community is already talking about, give our little perspective on it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about, but we're going to do the quick, fast community events. Right. As a reminder, we are on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Yes.
Like, subscribe, and follow. But starting this evening, Friday, September 27th, Lucid Voices has their open mic that starts at 7:30. So that's right. You can watch us and still go to the open mic. That's at Electric City Barn here in Schenectady, 7:30 to 9:30 tonight. Sincerely, Donnie. Adonis Richards. And this weekend is jam-packed. So tomorrow, Saturday, September 28th, YWCA has Strides for Strength Walk to End Domestic Violence. It begins at 10 a.m. at Schenectady County Community College. Important note, the color of the day is purple. So if you got a purple shirt or a purple jacket or whatever your purple piece is, wear your purple. Also, tomorrow, Saturday, September 28th, the Schenectady Pride Fall Rummage Sale is happening at the Rotterdam Community Center. That's actually on the 28th and the 29th. In Albany, there's going to be Center for Law and Justice is holding Dr. Alice Green Community Day.
Yeah.
That starts at 2:00, goes until 5 p.m. at 106 South Pearl Street. It's the old McDonald's.
Yeah.
On South Pearl. There's going to be activities for kids. There'll be music, entertainment. Generally a good time for a weekend that will be celebrating and commemorating and paying tribute still to Dr. Alice Green, who we unfortunately lost.
Legacy. Legend.
Yeah.
Dr. Alice Green. That's right.
Indeed. And on Sunday, September 29th at the Palace Theater, starting at 4 p.m., will be the official tribute to Dr. Alice Green. If you follow, Center for Law and Justice on Facebook, Instagram, also we share it on our page. You can get that information. You ain't got to write it down all now. Tomorrow night, Saturday, September 28th. I know the 28th, the 29th, there's a lot going on. Lucid Voices is at it again. At it again. You, Me, and Poetry from 6 to 10 p.m.
Nice.
There's going to be poetry, networking, just some general community building. Tickets are $20. It will be at the YWCA here in Schenectady. And as I mentioned, I will be sharing some poetry.
Which is going to be dope.
Ah!
I know you got some stuff in. No, you
So
got some stuff in the holster, man.
I think I'm going to share the new one. I think I'm going to share the new one.
Yeah, the last one that I sang?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fire.
I think so.
That's
I think
fire.
so.
And Adonis, and to his credit and his team's credit, like they always put on a show, always have amazing, folks that can deliver that spoken word, think deeply, and oftentimes they give folks in the community the opportunity to get up on stage and be able to spit their art to the folks. It's not something that people are always ready to do. Yeah. But having that opportunity, they get ready and they come up. It's really special, man. I appreciate Adonis and the works and the consistency
for real
that he's had in doing this stuff. Man.
Yeah. So Lucid Voices tonight, open mic, free at Electric City Barn. Tomorrow night, tickets are $20. WCA, well worth the cost. Sunday is a very busy day because Dr. Alice Green, we're absolutely going to be paying tribute to her. Also happens to be my 50th birthday.
I was about to say, I was waiting. I was going to bring it up myself. I didn't know if you was going to say it, and I was like,
you thought I was going to skip it? I'm not going to skip it. I'm going to be 50. I'm going to be 50.
She ain't lying. She's going to be 50 years old,
50,
man.
1974 is a whole year. That was before you, so.
Yeah, exactly. You got good genes. Something's right. Something right.
Yeah, but then right on the heels of my birthday, Monday, October 30th, the Schenectady City School District is holding a special board meeting at 6 p.m. to talk about safety in our schools as the conversation continues. Some folks are asking for metal detectors. Some folks are adamantly opposed to metal detectors, which we're going to talk about a little bit. So that's Monday, October 30th, right at the Family Engagement Center on Liberty Street, right across from the police station. No jokes needed. Then Tuesday, October 1st, Stop for Gaza World Strike Global Action Day. Upper Hudson Valley Code Pink has been sharing a lot of information about actions that are happening around Free Palestine and genocide, and stop the attacks on Lebanon, as well as Jewish Voices for Peace, Palestinian Rights Committee. Really a wonderful coalition. The YWCA at the YDSA at UAlbany, like the college students. There's just a lot of great folks working collectively together here in the Capital Region. But on Tuesday, October 1st, there's a call for a global strike. Don't go to work, don't go to school, don't buy nothing on Tuesday, October 1st. And if you follow Code Pink or Upper Hudson Valley Code Pink, you can get more information on that. And then lastly, but definitely not least, we are launching All of Us Women on Thursday, October 3rd. You can participate either online or in person here at the office. That's right. We're going to have folks here in the office. I'll be sure to drop the registration link. We've already got a number of people registered from Schenectady and other places across the Capital Region, as well as some people outside the state are going to be joining us online.
All of Us Women.
All of Us Women, the first and third Thursday of every month. Shout out to Vivienne, who has been really helping me launch this. She and other amazing women joined us during the Black August series, where we had such dynamic conversation. And because of them, this has now emerged because they asked for it.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. Really, 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 really.
No, that's absolutely amazing. I can't wait to see what comes from of it. Vivienne, like you said, during Black August, had a lot to share, very insightful, knows some history, and really was, I think, made the conversations, that much richer and deeper for all of us to share. And so shout out to you, Vivienne.
Yes.
As opposed to Vivienne. Vivienne, good people, appreciate you.
Yeah, and good evening again to everybody that's joining us online, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
That was a long list.
I told you there was a lot going on this weekend, and not to be lost that, my birthday is Sunday, September 29th. I will be 50 years old, but we're going to celebrate Saturday.
We're going to celebrate
Saturday. Jamila, I'm coming.
Shout out to Jamila, always coming through.
Yes, absolutely. Sure. But we do have a lot to talk about. as it relates to safety in our schools and the call for metal detectors, the terrorist attacks that are happening in the Middle East, and if we get a chance to, the unchecked domestic violence in the U.S.
Yeah, we did watch some history of that. That was
Yeah.
very interesting. I hadn't seen it that way before. Made those same connections, so I really want to get a chance to watch that again.
Yeah.
But anyway, so where we start? Let's go.
We're gonna start with metal detectors in our schools.
Metal
I mean, why
detectors in our
not?
schools.
You get to go first.
We've had several conversations. We've had our own discussion last Saturday in Jerry Burrell Park with concerned community members. The school district had a conversation that following Tuesday.
Yep.
School board meeting where they heard more from the community. It's we've heard a lot. We heard from students,
yes,
right, that were concerned that what they felt their voices weren't being heard, that they felt like a lot of what was being talked about the kids at the school was being sensationalized. Like they're not those kids.
Yep.
It's important for us to one, that we put that space together for them to come out and talk. Two, we also shared that at the school board when we went, or at least I was able to share it at the school board when we went. We saw a lot.
Yes.
We saw a lot.
And I think it's important for us to mention we're having this conversation right now because the media has sensationalized some things that happened. This isn't the first time we've had this conversation. We've heard from community members for years now and had those deep conversations. Not new.
And here's the thing. So we're not saying that nothing's happening, right? We're not saying that kids aren't getting in fights, that it wasn't some injuries that have occurred here and there. I think what I'm saying anyway, I don't want to put words in your mouth, is that our knee-jerk reaction is always to secure our kids, to control our kids, to police our kids. And that's never getting to the root problem, right?
No, it's not. And more so because I say it all the time, and I'm gonna keep saying it because it seems as if people want to ignore it and pretend like it's not being said. The data and research of over a decade tells us it not only does not make our schools safer, it causes harm to the students who are already being harmed and marginalized. So this idea of, I think I forget, I really want to look, and I might, because someone from the ACLU actually reached out to me directly just the other day, because they anticipated that corporations were going to reach out to the school district and say, we want to sell you AI weapons detection. And they wanted to share with us that it's not effective. They lie about the statistics, and that the billions in profit they have made, they are a huge lobbying group. That they have been able to have allocated however many millions of dollars, possibly hundreds of millions of dollars, to buy weapons detection. So it then feels like to the school district it was free. At the school board meeting, they mentioned that we were awarded a $500,000 grant. We do have like a matching that we would have to pay of a certain percentage. But when you're awarded money saying, hey, we'll give you this money to buy this thing, people are like, well, why wouldn't you buy it?
I mean, once again, what I use the word or the phrase knee-jerk reaction, and a lot of it is steeped in fear. Right. So just being fair to the parents, I'm not saying that the parents that want metal detectors or are more leaning into those type of carceral or secure kind of measures to address our kids don't care about our kids. I think they do. But what I think is they're not critically thinking about what that means for the student body over the years. Like someone mentioned something about, well, there's metal detectors at concerts and there's metal detectors in other parts of whatever, and we don't bat an eye. No, we don't, because one, we're not going to freaking concerts and whatever every single day being secured by police and metal detectors and having our bags. If we were doing that every day, Monday through Friday, like our kids would have to deal with it, it's a different scenario, right? So it's like, I think that like once a person is afraid, logic goes out the window, and they just want to do whatever the quickest or the easiest thing in their mind is to do. And what we've been told for a long time, to our detriment, is that this is what keeps us safe. There's no way to bulletproof our kids in a way that would keep them 100% safe. If we don't begin to address the roots and the
Right.
culture,
Because
right?
that is the 100% way.
But that's not the. So I'm saying bulletproof, meaning like we're not going to be able to secure buildings so well, put walls up, fences up, all these different checkpoints. We have guard towers and all of that, and things can still happen because we're not addressing the root. That's my
And
point.
not only are we not preventing the violence from happening by doing those things, we are creating acts of violence against the
Yeah.
students who are
Yeah.
already harmed.
Yeah.
So it's not just bad practice. It actually goes against what our district says that it, is all about. Equity and justice and those things, and so a decision has not been made for the city of Schenectady.
No.
At some point, I do anticipate there will be a vote. The person in charge of safety in the district has said on more than one occasion that he believes this is the next layer of security that should be added, in spite of the fact that the data has been presented more than once that says this is not going to make us safer and it's going to cause harm to our kids.
Yeah.
But some individuals just, I don't know if they're ignoring it, they're looking past it, they can't get beyond their own bias and their own beliefs. Like, I believe this thing, and so I don't care what you said to me or what data you showed me. Yeah. I'm just going to keep saying this thing over and over again. Someone mentioned there are metal detectors in hospitals now. And that's the argument. Well, if these metal detectors are here, why can't they be in an institution of learning? It's not addressing the root cause by putting metal detectors anywhere. It causes significant harm. And there are news articles in districts in other places across the country where people talked about that trauma that is experienced when going through metal detectors, and that it's, if adults are feeling traumatized by an instance that happens to happen ever so often, our children who are going through so much trauma, and we've identified that we have extreme trauma in our schools, our children are facing every single day, and we're willing to re-traumatize them because some people will feel safer even though no one else will be.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing that we have to wrestle with. And it's, ultimately, there has to be a vote.
Yes.
Communities' voices are being heard. At least that's happening.
Yep. And there's a petition.
And there's a petition that's going around. So it's like, have your voice heard. If you have children in the district, if you don't have children in the district and you care about what's happening with the kids at schools, you should make sure that you're showing up to this next school board to have your voice heard and to share whatever your perspective is on what should be happening in our school trip. We want the community to come out. And ultimately, one of the things because I spoke at the last school board meeting, one of the things that I wanted to say is that if whatever dollar we're spending on those type of measures, we should be spending 5 on making sure, like, and addressing the issues that our kids actually have. I'm talking about beyond just mental health, but building relationships and making sure and centering the culture and centering these kids and their families, inspiring them, motivating them to actually do better. Having a fight at school, there's been fights at school since there's been school, right? Yeah. That's always happened. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that, I'm not minimizing whatever, what's happened to a kid somewhere. We want to keep our kids safe. We want it to be a safe space. Yes. Reality is we can make it a safer space. Yes. Right? Than a safe space, because there is no, like I said, 100% anything when it comes to that. So we can make it safer. And I believe it's safer by addressing the root problems, about seeing what's going on with the kids, by having a conversation with the family, by partnering with organizations and the city and others to change what the culture is right now. Now, I know that's some long-term, it could be some long-term, but when do we start?
It has started. Mm-hmm. And that's another part of the problem, mm-hmm. is this false argument of, we're not saying that we're not going to do these other things. We are going to have mental health. We are going to have wraparound services. We are partnering with, other organizations and looking to do that. and we want to do this thing. So for those individuals, because obviously I am very passionate about this with my track record of how long I've been doing education advocacy.
And you got kids
I
all through the district.
I have children in elementary, and I have a high school teacher who is in the high school every single day. So when the call goes out, when the message happens, there's a lockdown or something, every single time for the rest of my life, it's going to be of concern for me. So I want her safety as well as everybody else's. The idea that we're doing all these other things and still are willing to put in place thing that's going to cause more harm. Don't brag to me or try to reassure me, hey, we're going to have mental health services, so it's okay that we get a metal detector, or the metal detector is in collaboration with mental health services. No, the metal detector creates a need for more mental health services and more supports for our children. So we are not taking away or creating more safety, which has been proven time and time and time and time again. We are making it more unsafe and increasing the need for mental health services and community partnerships and working with the city. So
but the trick is then
it's not an either or, it's not a both and. It's not both and.
Convince those that believe deeply, as much as you believe in the data and the experience and all of that, how do we convince them? How do we not necessarily convince them so much as reach them?
So I had mentioned this. I did a live on my personal page a couple days ago talking about this and reminded folks that there are going to be people who are not happy. At some point, a decision is going to be made, and there are going to be people who are not happy. The question is, can the board sit there and say that it made a decision based on critical thinking that is supported by all of the data and research and the calls from the community? Because when I hear the calls from the community for metal detectors, it's not because they just want metal detectors, it's they believe metal detectors are best because they don't have all of that other information. Because I have had conversations with some folks that said, well, if it's not metal detectors, what is it? And then when we had that conversation, talked about the research, talked about wraparound services and root causes. Oh, I didn't think about that, or I didn't know that there's this information that shows the harm that's done and why it's that way. Now, it's not everybody. Some people still don't care. The board shouldn't make a decision ever simply from peer pressure. I think we need to work collectively as here's what people are saying, what's the data and research, how do we pull this all together to make the best decision going forward? And that we can stand 10 toes down and say, we know some folks aren't happy, but with, I don't know if it can be without a doubt, but there should be able to be like cell phones was harder. There's not a lot of data and research around cell phones, right?
Yeah.
There is when it comes to this. And if we are about critical thinking and teaching our children to think critically, and that's what we're about in the district, and know your sources and all that type stuff, claim evidence logic, and then in the face of that evidence and logic, you do something else, what are we doing?
No, I hear you. I hear you, and I think it's a discussion that has there's a lot of parts. And I asked you a question about like what it means to reach people who are not where we're at when
It's
we're thinking about
conversations.
and it's conversation, and but see, here's the thing. This conversation about metal detectors is a conversation about police. It's a conversation, period, about what we believe that keeps us safe as a community. And what we often fall back on is we outsource our safety to others instead of getting back to the place where, and I know this is it's not easy for people to wrap their minds around this, but like culturally, right? We have a violent culture. we appreciate violence in all these different ways more than almost any other culture. Not any other nation that I'm aware of, ever heard of, has anywhere near the number of guns in their community, of threats of violence in their community, etc. Even places that are war torn. So then our instincts are so like we have to just do this instead of reconnecting our community better, like really taking approaches that the data will show you is better for our community, better for our kids, better for our families, right?
Yeah.
And it's difficult to reach people through their fear. So that's why I asked you about how you reach people, because
it's the conversation.
If the instinct is always the same and we never actually address like, hey, like we can't just always do this because we never solve the problem. That's just if we just lock everybody up in the community who we think is going to cause a crime or has caused a crime. If we just do that, we learned that lesson over the last 40 years.
We still do
all
that.
we end up doing is building more prisons, locking more people up in our community, and ultimately never addressing the issues about how they got incarcerated in the first place.
We are not the safest nation in the world.
So like anyway, it's a much deeper, bigger conversation. We talked a lot about show up at the school board. When's the next school board meeting? People can show up?
It's going to be Monday, October 30th. It starts at 6 p.m.
All right.
530 Liberty Street. But as we're talking about safety and violence,
I mean,
and your point that, the violent culture of the United States of America, its impact globally, and what we are seeing right now with Israel's terrorist attacks against Hezbollah and Lebanon, and that it's still ongoing genocidal campaign against Palestinians that is supported by the United States of America. And yeah, we can't forget that. So like the culture of violence that exists, this country was founded on violence, and other countries use similar tactics. Israel, the state of Israel, we're talking about the government, is doing horrible things. It blew up pagers.
Yeah.
And hundreds dead, thousands wounded.
Thousands wounded. I can't remember the first wave. It was thousands wounded and dozens killed. Second wave, it was hundreds,
right,
or something. And now they're back at it again. It's a constant bombardment of Lebanon today, and Lebanon and Gaza, because they ain't let up in Gaza either,
and the West Bank,
and in the West Bank. So the news keeps pouring in about what's happening in Palestine, Israel, now Lebanon. And there doesn't seem to be any end in sight. The anniversary of October 7th is fast approaching.
It is.
42,000 individuals killed in Gaza, mostly,
at least,
mostly women and children.
Yeah.
Nearly 1,000 in the West Bank, killed by soldiers and settlers. And now it's in Lebanon. And I actually just saw a news story earlier today where there was a shell that had exploded, but the pieces of it were still readable and whatever. And so the journalist was reading off it. It was the United States weaponry that was dropped on a literal tents where tents were at, refugee camp where there was tents. So it's still happening. I know that there's still a lot of rallying happening in the community to press our folks, our representatives, to stop funding this war in the way they are.
Billions.
And I think Netanyahu's in New York City today.
And they protested outside his hotel?
There's a protest that happened outside his hotel. But, there's many people that have come out and, against this war, including most of the global, all of the global South and most of the world, period. And just like, this has got to stop. But there's no end in sight.
The UN actually signed, I don't know if it's called a proclamation or a statement, with overwhelming majority of its members calling for Israel to end its occupation.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen that on the media.
I mean, but to be honest with you, like all of the ICC, the ICJ, the UN, like everyone's like getting up and saying, this has to stop. It's wrong. It's genocide. It's this, it's that, and nothing happening.
But they
So like,
also
how much
didn't
power
say
do they
that.
really have?
But 10 years ago, they didn't say that.
But
and this
I'm
has been
talking about today.
happening since 1948.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm sure countries said it back then.
countries have said
But
it.
you're not the majority like we're seeing today.
Right.
But my point is that it's being said.
Yes.
All these proclamations, all these folks are coming out and saying it, but it's not stopping. So,
and all the more
that's what
reason
I'm
that the
saying.
United States needs to
United
be
States
a
is probably
leader.
the only player that can,
Yes.
player in the game that can do anything about it.
Absolutely. Because if there was an embargo against Israel, if they stopped sending them weapons, if they stopped giving them support so that Israeli citizens have free medical health care, but we don't, right? If the US did that, it would force a change.
What'd you say? You said Israelis have free medical health care?
And we don't.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yep. So
newsflash to me.
Billions of dollars that is
funding from
funded from the United States to a foreign country. APAC is a foreign lobby group that has, open access to our elected officials. That is not in our interest, but the interest of a foreign government. There's a lot going on that is connected both locally and globally. But speaking of New York City, really quickly, right? Because we do have to wrap up. Anybody hear about Eric Adams?
Yeah, I certainly heard about Mr. Eric Adams, indicted on several federal charges, including fraud, wire fraud, attempting to get funds from a foreign government. It's a lot going on with him, and I know he's done a lot to harm the people in New York City, especially the Black and brown variety.
Yeah,
and people are kind of celebrating this indictment. And I'll be honest with you, I get it. And like him coming out of power, I think Jumaane Williams, if he resigns, Jumaane Williams would come in and be the interim mayor. And that's something that I think many of us would love to see.
Yes, because he's the New York City advocate.
I can never celebrate, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The criminal legal system.
No.
That same criminal legal system locked up millions upon millions of young Black boys, right, over these many years, destroyed families and all of that, destroyed our civil rights leaders and folks that are fighting for freedom. That's the same criminal justice system that's taking down Adams now. Now, Adams might have, whatever Adams did and whatever's happening to him, and it's like it's a scenario. I just ain't with the celebrating of it. You know what I mean? I'm not with the celebrating of it at all.
I think
I'm with the changing of the guard.
Yeah, what I look for, what I'm looking for is the accountability, right? And I think that is also something that our community, as well as others, want accountability and don't know what that looks like outside of
the criminal legal system,
going to jail and going to prison.
Yeah,
which we're not going to talk about it today. We have talked about it before. Maybe
have.
I'm sure we'll talk about it again because there are other things. Saying that someone isn't going to jail or prison doesn't mean there's not accountability. Saying that our children are not suspended or expelled does not mean there's not accountability. And so it is all connected, whether it's happening at the local level, inside our schools, globally. When we have these conversations, I am always left with this sense of the interconnectedness and why it takes all of us. And also how much I'm really looking forward to all of us women coming together Thursday, October 3rd, because we about to do some things.
I like what you did with that too. All of us were asked. I like that. I think it's going to be special.
Yes.
And you already got a pretty cool collective.
Yo, Shanima, Amira, Vivian, like there were some women.
Yeah.
There's some women that are about to sit together and talk about social justice, social change in a way that we recognize how it affects women uniquely and how we support each other in the fight for justice.
That's fire. That's fire. Looking forward for what comes of that.
We'll give a report back.
Please do. I want to know. I mean, I want to know. I met you actually. First time we talked was at
Justice Works.
At Justice Works, and it was the Women's Committee.
There was a women's group and there was a men's group.
And I was like trying to figure out, it was something. I was like, I want to know what the hell women is thinking about or whatever. But anyway, that's where I met you. It's really dope to be coming back full circle. And now you've done some other stuff like similar, but it's really dope to see it in this iteration. So big shout out for you.
So it's a lot. Listen, for those that watch live, share it, tag your friends, tell folks to watch, to like, to subscribe, to follow. If you're watching the recording, I appreciate that you lasted to the end. Because it makes a difference. The more people that watch, the more people that share, the wider the message, and the more that we can do, and the more that folks can follow us. Last thing, which I don't want to forget, please be sure to check out our link tree. It is Linktree is untitled and free, and it has the links to everything that we are currently involved in, ways to follow us, to support us, sign petitions, whether it's regarding Palestine or join the All of Us Women. That's going to be on the screen for folks that are watching on Facebook or YouTube. Yeah. If you're on Instagram, check the link in the bio. All right. That's all I got. That's
all right. Listen, much love, man, from all of us to you.
Music.
We're gonna sign off. I got it. We're gonna sign off, man. See you next Friday, Focus Friday. Have a great weekend. Have a blessed weekend. Stay safe out there. All Peace.
Right. Later, y'all.